Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is just map the territory that we're going to be moving in. What does it look like? How do we see some patterns in the landscape? Places to grab onto, things to understand it with. Alright, here we go. Alright, so when we look at the keyboard, what do we see? We see some black keys and some white keys. We got 2 black keys, 3 black keys, 2 black keys, 3 black keys. We got them in groups, right, of 3 and 2. We have total of 5 black keys. If we count each group as a repetition, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 black keys. And then how many white keys do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 white keys before we get to the same white key again. Alright, why are they the same? Why do I say that? So let's just I'm going to play this one, this bottom of the 3 black keys. You can find that on your keyboard. And then play this same one. It sounds like one is higher than the other. Why do I call them the same? They're what's called octaves, and that means, so when I play this note, it sends out air out of my speakers, right? Air is vibrating. That air, when it vibrates at twice the speed, creates a very similar sound. So it's a similar thing to the ear, right? That's called an octave. And those are the bottom of the 3 black keys. And if I go all the way up the keyboard, I can keep going all the way down. And if I play them all together, they sound very consonant, as we say. They sound very like they fit, right? They work together. If I just change one of these notes, sounds very different all of a sudden, right? We're in a different realm. It's not harmonic in the sense of harmonious anymore. It's harmonic in the sense of complicated harmonies, right? We might want to introduce that mood all of a sudden, but yeah. So that gives you a sense of what the sameness. What I mean when I say these are the same, they're basically the same note, or they're called the same note. If you want to know the notations, it's called an F sharp, right? You don't need to memorize those. Don't sweat that right now. That's not the point. But basically, do notice that 3, 2, 3, 2. All right. If I ask you to go to the 2 black keys and play the one in the middle of it, you can find it, right? You can go to that one. You can go up here and you can say, oh, there's the one in the middle, and here's the one down here in between the group of 2. So that's a way for you to start navigating the keyboard and recognizing what notes are octaves, what notes are the same, right? So you have some order and you have some recognition. Okay, 5 black keys and 7 white keys, that equals 12. So there's 12 keys on here basically, and they keep repeating up and down at different subdivisions or multiples rather of one another. So if I want to say play this F sharp and then play this F sharp, in between that I have 12 steps, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It took me 12 steps to get there. And we notice that it's all, each of these steps sounds like it's the same distance between it, right? So each key is equal. Black and white are equal on here, and they each have an equal distance from one another. So that's one way that I could get from one F sharp, we call it, to another F sharp, or just one lower of the 3 black keys to another lower of the 3 black keys. It's just by going straight up the what's called chromatic scale. Chromatic scale is 12 notes. I could play another scale to get up from this F sharp to this F sharp and down. And you might have heard this one before. It's the famous do, re, mi, fa, so, right? Do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do. Na, 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 na. That's what's called a major scale. Don't worry about memorizing all these. What I'm doing right now is just introducing you to the idea of scales, and the idea of octaves first, and the idea of scales to move in between these octaves. Alright, so what did we do when we did that? We skipped one note, we did another one, we skipped one note, we did another one, and then we went up only one note. So what I'm going to call these whole step is where you go up 2 spaces. A half step is what we call it when you go up just 1 space. So I did whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Don't memorize that yet, don't worry about it yet. We'll start practicing that. But for right now, the idea is the scale is a way of getting from point A to point B that breaks it up in a certain pattern. So I could make that pattern different. I could play what we call a minor scale, and that sounds like this. And we'll learn how to play all these. We'll learn how to finger them proper so it's efficient and everything. Don't sweat that right now. Right now, that is one sound I could do. Another sound I could do. And that has fewer notes. So remember, the chromatic scale had 12 tones in it before we repeated. The major scale had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 before we repeated. The minor scale also had 7. What I just played was called the whole tone scale, and it's because there's whole steps the whole way up. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 steps before I repeat. So scales you can take a different amount of steps. Just like, if you're tall or you are just walking with really big steps, you can get from point A to point B in all kinds of different ways. You can skateboard, you can take big steps, you can take tiny steps, you can swerve and curve, you can, there's a million ways to get from point A to point B. That's what scales are essentially. So please, do your best to not be intimidated by all that info and just take it in as an idea. We got octaves and we got scales as modes of getting. I could do a 2-note scale, or something. I could call a lot of things scales. I could do. There's a million permutations of scales we could do. So we'll learn about some of the more common ones, and then we'll learn about how to construct your own or how to learn about other alternative scales. But right now I just wanted to get you introduced to that idea, and we're going to next move on to ways of thinking about and using scales.